Hey everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I am your host Taylor Jackson. It is nice to be back. I'm sorry that I kind of went away for a little bit. We started this. We were daily last year, kind of around this time, maybe not quite daily by this point. Anyways, January 1st, I was like, I'll be back, and then I didn't, and then we've released some in September. I'm sorry that the podcast went away. It's basically it just comes down to the fact that I'm juggling a lot of different things as kind of a one human studio. And one of the, I guess the things that I pride myself on essentially is the fact that I am a one human wedding photography studio. And when things get busy, things really do get busy. I'd love to be able to outsource some things, but I feel like you can outsource the non-critical things. I feel like you can outsource editing. I feel like that is a totally reasonable thing. But there are a lot of things in my business that are too close to the core of it, as like just as far as continuing to book my ideal clients, which is, I think, the key for everything. If you're a follower, I guess maybe this is a brief shout out. I won't make this an advertisement, but Book More Weddings 2020 is coming out in Patreon right now. So if you're a Patreon member, patreon.com/Taylor Jackson, I'm releasing Book More Weddings 2020 as I'm building it. So at the end of this month, basically right now you can sign up for Patreon for $30 and you can get the entire Book More Weddings 2020 course. But in January, it's going to be for sale on its own once it's all built, and it's going to be $299. So if you want to save $269, hop over to Patreon right now and get it. It will disappear at the end of December there though. So you have to buy it in January or get it for a lot less money right now. One of the things that I'm talking about a lot in Book More Weddings 2020, one is, I guess the overarching principle of it is that if you show up to a new city or you want to get your wedding photography business started and you're at absolute zero right now, how do you build your business in 1 year to be full-time at the end of that year? So that is the entire course. What I kind of want to touch on just briefly here is the importance of actually creating a business that makes you happy, a business that does not make you sad every time you wake up and you're like, I love that I'm taking photos, but I know a few people that are just like drowning in their email box, and it's not a fun feeling. And the way you kind of go about that is primarily just prior preparation and figuring out who your ideal client is and becoming your ideal client so that you're able to really understand who they are when they end up at your website. So you're not just kind of like writing copy for the sake of writing copy, like my about me section and whatnot. Everything has a purpose. Every sentence has a purpose. Every video I put out for the most part has a purpose, unless it's something silly. Or even if it is silly, then it has a purpose to entertain, which I think is something that doesn't really exist a whole lot in the wedding photography space. Specifically for wedding photographers, I feel like we're a pretty serious bunch. At least our social presences are presence eye. That if you can do something that's a little bit funny, it really does stand out. The thing that you may or may not, if you're a follower of my YouTube channel, you might have been following along with, is that I did a bunch of like music earlier this year in January, February, March, and that was going to continue through, but kind of like the podcast, everything just got too busy with my with my real life job, and I wasn't able to put as much effort into that as much as I wanted to, at least once we actually got into wedding season and it started to get busy. So what I'm hearing from most people that I come in contact with is no longer like, hey, like great wedding that you shot at whatever. Like nobody really cares about that unless they're engaged currently and they're looking to have their dream wedding, in which case they are hyper aware of what I'm doing in the photography wedding space. But most people that I'm just kind of casually in contact with or my friends, like they don't really care about weddings anymore, to be completely honest. And that I started doing something a little bit outside of that was interesting and funny and just was kind of there for enjoyment. And it seems to have resonated very well with a lot of people. So the importance of creating something outside of your usual realm of work. One, I think it pushes you, like, as long as it's something that is remotely related to what you're doing, it pushes you to tell stories in a different way. And I feel like that is something that I did kind of learn through the music journey, or at least the beginning of the music journey. I learned how to make documentaries a little bit better. I was doing videos, and we learned video production, like working with my buddy Blair. There's all kinds of learning opportunities that came with that. Plus, at the end of the day, we were making a great, interesting, weird product that went out there into the world that actually did kind of resonate with people and also got a pretty good response. So the thing that people are talking to me the most about right now is something that is completely unrelated to weddings. So I think it is important to create work like that is it's for you primarily. It's for you primarily with the idea that it could be something that people could enjoy, or that something that they could be learning from it, or specifically when it comes to community, that there are so many opportunities out there to go out and to just tell the stories in your local community. And if you can get like 10 or 15 videos out there in the world, even though I know you're a wedding photographer, but if you can go out there and you can tell 10 or 15 different stories of different people, you are really going to tune your skills, and you're going to learn some video skills too if you choose to tell that story over video, or you can choose to tell it kind of like Humans of New York style, where it's a photo and a full write-up. I think that going into 2020, the big things that you should be thinking about is how to create a lot of content, a lot more content. And I don't want it to seem like a devastating thing that, now I have to go out and I have to make like videos and everything like that. But I think just by creating those few key pieces of evergreen content to begin with, if you're a wedding photographer and you don't yet have a promotional video, that should be number one. That like the next 10, 15, 20 shoots that you're going out to, like, please get somebody to come grab behind the scenes footage, or my GoPro setup, my behind the scenes GoPro setup is on YouTube if you want to search for that and see how to kind of take it yourself. For specifically for like the marketing your weddings, I would recommend having somebody there to show you actually at the wedding, so that they can be comfortable with like your face and you in the scene. The point of view GoPro style camera is awesome for, I think, teaching other photographers, but I don't feel like it's necessarily something that's like super, that the brides are going to look at it and be like, wow, that's like really, really awesome. I think there are some, I guess, depending on your ideal client, I think there are definitely some outliers there, that it will work really well for some people. But for the most part, if you are somewhat comfortable having your face in front of the camera, you don't even need to talk. You can just get B-roll. You can write a script and you can go like exactly what I'm doing right now, put some music behind this, make it all nice and romantic, and talk through your process. So I think the more that you know what you want your dream wedding to be, and the more that you're able to speak to that in all forms of media, whether it's the comment on your Instagram post, or like the script to your promotional video, or your About Me page, or your blog post, or why you love this wedding, or whatever it might be, the more you're in the mindset of being your ideal client and knowing what will drive them to contact you, and not only necessarily contact you, but become like the photographer that they need, that they're not even going to reach out to anyone else until they reach out to you, to because they're that sold on you already. And I think the way you do that, and the way that you really attract your ideal clients, is just by being as open and honest as you possibly can about what you think a dream wedding is. And if they identify with that, it is kind of that ballpark home run, and it is going to end in some sort of deal for you actually getting to shoot their wedding, which is awesome, because now you get to go out and you get to shoot your dream wedding weekend after weekend after weekend. And I feel like in the beginning of my wedding photography career, back like 15 plus years ago, I guess, when I was just kind of struggling, I was a concert photographer. I was working at Outback Steakhouse, and I was making no money in concert photography. I was making a lot of t-shirts, actually, not making the t-shirts, but I was being paid in t-shirts if I came out and I shot a band. If I was commissioned by the band, quote unquote, usually that was like a t-shirt deal that they'd be like, yeah, we'll give you like 2 shirts, man. Come out and shoot some photos. And I was totally down for it. Like, I just wanted to be out there creating cool work. My big, I guess, like mindset in the very beginning was the fact that I just wanted to make my friends look cool and get them into magazines. And I feel like I kind of bridged that into weddings as well, that as I was going into weddings, I wasn't really thinking of how to capture a day from a wedding photography standpoint. I was thinking more of like, what is kind of the coolest way I can capture this event? My mindset has shifted a little bit since then, but in the beginning, like if I could have 10 minutes to make some like band promo style photos with either the bride and groom or the wedding party, like I was pretty stoked to be doing that. So my background is all concert photography, music photography, and then I got into some stock photography when micro stock was kind of just emerging, and there's kind of a huge shift that I was a part of there. Whether it be positive or negative, it's probably too long to get into on this specific podcast, but the stock photography model really did shift, and I was a part of it. I was probably, looking back, I don't know if I was a positive piece of it. I was part of the micro stock brigade. I basically just made a bunch of self-portraits of me doing all kinds of stuff and sold them out on the internet. And I realized pretty quickly what worked and what sold. And my number one best selling photo of all time is actually a photograph of a brick wall at my college. I was essentially like what Microstock was at the time. It was just like content, 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 which kind of maybe bridges over to 2020. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. The idea was create as much as I possibly could, see what works, and then iterate on that. And by taking photos of everything like blueprints and like everything that was in my college, the brick wall texture proved to be the most dominant force in my Microstock portfolio somehow. And it's continuing to make me money. Like I put all that up well over 10 years ago, maybe even like 15 years ago. And it still pays me every single month, that brick wall photo. And essentially why people download it is it's just graphic design artists that are looking for that like style of brick wall, I guess. And they find it, and they're for the most part working under like a company subscription model. So it doesn't really matter if they download literally the dumbest image of all time, that they need it. So they're going to download it and I get paid on that. And I'm okay with that because it's funny for me every single time. So bridging into 2020 and why it's going to be maybe not a battle of the content, but a battle of the curated content. That if you are sitting there thinking like, hey, how am I going to make 2020 the best year ever? First, go to Patreon and get Book More Weddings 2020, where we go super in depth about all of this. But second, just figure out how you can tell the message of what you believe to be your ideal wedding day in as many places as possible. And the more pieces of content you have out there, the more the discovery it's going to be for somebody that's recently engaged to come across it. Also, another pro tip is on Facebook ads now, you can target by recently engaged as well, which is kind of like getting a little more spooky. So rather than advertising to people that have been engaged for multiple years, you can now advertise to recently engaged people. And I'm not sure what the parameters are, and it's probably a little bit more expensive to reach them, but they are your most ideal client ever. Or at least like in terms of numbers and in terms of being able to instantly be in contact with somebody that has been recently engaged. That's pretty crazy. So look that up if you are not yet using Facebook ads. Another thing like 2020 is that I feel like Facebook ads, Instagram ads, that people are kind of like over them. They're like, oh, they don't work anymore. And I'm cool with people believing that because in my experience, they still work very, 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 very well. Facebook ads are, I would say, maybe 80% what they were kind of doing a couple years ago. And that 80% is because now that they're just a little bit more expensive to purchase. The inquiries that I'm getting, I feel like are still there. It's just a little bit more expensive to reach the client that you want to. But when you can target by like the exact age and gender and recently engaged, like I'm cool to pay for that. We work in a pretty high margin industry. And even if you spend like $10 a day for like 20 days and you don't book anything, if you book that one wedding, it just kind of covers it all. So I am happy to do that. I'm happy to experiment. I think Instagram swipe up ads right now are just like completely, not to just sound like Gary Vaynerchuk, but they're super undervalued still. And if you want to reach out to local people, there's not a whole lot of local people advertising on that yet. So I feel like most of my ads that I'm being hit by are all brands that are outside of this area. So I feel like if I'm ever hit by a local ad by somebody, it's still remarkable. It's still kind of stand out-ish. And I feel like it's still doing a lot of really great things. So if you want to build your Instagram presence over 2020, one thing that you can do that's kind of like, I guess, paid/organic is if you're running kind of a small drip ad campaign, so like $5 or $6 a day or whatever you're comfortable with, that one, you're hopefully going to get those wedding inquiries, and two, you're just going to get a lot of people following you. Like if you're, again, like targeting in that local area, that you're going to start to attract a lot of people, and a lot of your followers are actually going to be like local people that maybe they came across your name, or maybe you're a friend of a friend or whatever it might be. But by gaining a few more Instagram followers, you're going to, one, have that social stamp of approval on Instagram as far as like the vanity metric goes, and hopefully two, like getting a lot more engagement. In Canada, I feel like this is also dripping out into the States right now, is that our likes are gone from Instagram. So I can't really see, I can look at them and try to guess by scrolling down to see how many people have liked a post. But if you post something, I can't see likes anymore. So that metric has just kind of been erased. So even if you have like 50,000 followers and you were getting like 45,000 likes on every single photo. Now people can't see that. So now what you have to be competing on is the comment game and getting people to interact with you. So there's a variety of ways to do that. One way, if you just want kind of an actionable tactical thing to do right now, is if you run giveaways, if you do kind of giveaways with other local brands that you should hopefully be working with and creating good content together with. If you do a sweet giveaway with somebody and just get people to comment or tag somebody on the post, that you can just instantly light up an Instagram post. Like maybe if you have 1,000 followers, you're probably going to get like 100 comments. If you have 5,000 followers, you're probably going to get an unreasonable amount of comments on that. That people love free giveaways. And if you're giving away local things, that like to have a post that goes up that is in your local area and tagged with like in downtown whatever or in your city, that you're going to organically rank really high for. If you're using the right hashtags, you're going to rank for all those hashtags as well. So by creating that like one massive thing, you're going to get a lot of discovery off of it. So maybe a takeaway, find a brand, maybe do some video content together, maybe take a photo of them, maybe go and try to pitch them on your monthly subscription program for creating Instagram content for them, which is also a super viable like thing to do right now. That if you can have 10 or 15 different like restaurant groups or whatever paying you every single month to create their Instagram content for them, it's like, I don't know, that's your full-time business now. And you go out a couple of days, like if you have 10 clients recurring, you know you're going to get paid at the end of that month, you know you're going to get paid at the end of the next month, and you just got to find those 10 days to go out and make that content. So that's an easy, I guess, way to kickstart a business, or at least to be creating content and be doing that while you're also kind of going along the wedding photography side of things as well. I think it's important, and specifically through like hybrid video coverage, I think it's important to just have as many avenues open to you as possible. One, for life happiness, that if you decide that someday weddings just aren't fun for you anymore, you instantly have the ability to pivot somewhere else. Or if just like the market tanks for weddings, which I don't really foresee happening because it's Wedding Ratchet. Everyone wants to have a marginally better wedding than their friend did last year. So I only really suspect that weddings will get more and more expensive over time. But I think by doing this and having as many different options, you kind of protect yourself against every possible thing that is out of your control. And you're able to pivot and you're able to create work and create money, regardless of what is happening externally. So there's also a full write-up of that business model subscription for like local businesses in my Patreon as well. So if you're interested in that, I think there's a video and a write-up. It's from a couple years ago, but there's a full list of all the like 150 videos in Excel. So if you head over patreon.com/Taylor Jackson, they're all right there. All right. That is all. Hopefully there are some good takeaways for your 2020 in this podcast. And we're off to Japan actually tomorrow. So I'm probably on an airplane if you're listening to this on Monday. And we're going to be creating a lot of content that I can't really talk about yet, but it'll be a lot of fun stuff. And I'm also working on a huge landscape/cityscape photography tutorial. So that is outside of the realm of wedding photography, but there will be a lot of things coming soon. And that's going to be a really, really massive project. It started small and now it's kind of scaling. So I'm excited for that, but also it's going to be a lot of editing. So I'll spend a lot of time here on my computer making videos, but it's a lot of fun. I have equal amounts of fun in the shooting as I do usually the editing. I feel like editing is where at least all my humor and more creativity comes out when you have time to sit with things. I feel like maybe this is a helpful thing for you if you're a quiet, introverted human that is afraid of being in front of the camera. I find that I get the basics out okay on camera, and then in post-production is kind of where I make everything good. So don't worry too hard if you feel uncomfortable in front of the camera. Just know that there are ways to cut around it and make yourself look professional, even when you're not, because that's what I do pretty much every day now. So thank you for listening. I'll be back again next week, and hopefully you have a great week wherever you are in the world. And follow along on Instagram. I'm at Taylor Jackson if you want to see what we're up to this week. But it's probably just going to be Marshall eating a bunch of Coolish. What Coolish is it's essentially like soft serve ice cream in a Capri Sun style bag. And it's weird. There's a straw. It's like a space packet of just soft serve ice cream. And he'll eat about 150 of them this week, I would assume. We're there for 7 days. So what's the math on that? It's a lot. It's a lot a day, but I think Marshall can handle it. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you again next Monday.